BYU needs to win this game. It's yet another opportunity to prove your mettle against a P5 team. It's at home, and they throw the football all over the field. The Virginia Cavaliers do. This is going to be a very, very difficult game, Jake. Do you have a feeling one way or another of how this goes?
I think if BYU is going to win this game, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think we can no longer be like, hey, well, if BYU plays defense, they're going to win this game because they don't play defense.
Was that an attempt at a BYU radio voice? Because that was the other thing everybody tweeted about. No, we don't.
BYU radio.
Stop. But that was the thing that everybody was talking about yesterday, by the way. But I do think it's interesting that if you look at how the Virginia Cavaliers play, they're going to throw the football all over the place. And it's going to be interesting to see how and what new wrinkles BYU brings to the field to take on Virginia, because you can't play the same defense you've been playing this year and expect to win. I think you are in a position where you have to adjust in this secondary. And I don't know exactly how they're going to do that, but you're coming off of a win. This is a late game. It is, by the way, don't forget, it's on ESPN2.
Oh.
Utah and UCLA are on ESPN. So it's an all Utah ESPN night. But UVA is everybody's pick to win this game. BYU is only a 2.5-point home favorite, which actually means they're a dog, because being at home is worth 3 points. So just about everybody believes that Virginia is going to win this game.
Yeah, and I think, so to win this game, if you're BYU, it's about time of possession. So you have to limit how many opportunities Virginia gets. And how do you do that? You run the football effectively, right? That's how you chew clock. That's how you possess the football for 30 minutes in a football game. And so, I know that sounds cliche, or that sounds like, hey, this is what everybody says, but I truly believe that in this particular game, because the back end of that BYU defense is just terrible, like not good, and this Virginia team can throw it all over the place, I think you got to run the football, and you got to run it effectively. I think that's the beginning and the end for BYU. I think it goes without saying you can't turn the football over in this game. It goes without saying that you need a clean game, not a lot of penalties, not a lot of mental mistakes. That's the kind of effort it's going to take to win this game. And no, I'm not calling them a favorite in this game at all. I don't think they deserve to be a favorite in this game after the inconsistencies we've seen the last couple of weeks. So,
here's the question that has to be asked. How many times has BYU scored 30 points with Jaron Hall as their starting quarterback?
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah.
Not a single time. And that's because Jaron Hall has been here recently a very limited quarterback. And so when you look at their win against Arizona, they won 24-16. You look at the win against Utah, BYU won 26-17. You look at the win against Arizona State, BYU won 27-17.
Yeah.
And Baylor Romney threw that final touchdown. You look at the win over South Florida, 35-27. Baylor Romney throws for 305 yards. You look at the win at Utah State, Jaron Hall does not play again. They score 34, and they win 34-20 with Romney and Jacob Conover.
Yeah.
Well, then you go to Boise State and you lose, and you only score 17 points. You go to Baylor and you lose, and you only score 24 points. And then you beat Washington State in what was ugly football, and you only scored 21 points. That's why I think you have to lean Virginia here.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jaron Hall-led offenses don't produce big offense.
Yeah.
They don't produce 30, 35, 38, 42-point games. They do not. And when you look at what Virginia does, on the flip side of this, all Virginia does is score 30 points. I mean, that's all they do. Because they throw the ball all over the yard, right? So when they beat Georgia Tech 48-40, when they beat Duke 48-0, when they beat Louisville 34-30, when they beat Miami 30-28, all they do is lose to UNC 59-39. They lost and scored 39 points. They beat Illinois 42-14. They beat William and Mary 43-0. It's a high potent offense. This is an offense that scores 30-plus points week in and week out, with 1 week being an exception.
Yeah.
And it's because they throw the football exceptionally well. And it's because you have a quarterback in Brennan Armstrong that completes 64% of his passes and averages 9 yards per completion, and he doesn't turn the football over much.
Yep.
23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Against a defense at BYU, frankly, in the secondary that has really struggled. And I don't know how you change that over the course of 1 week, because BYU's secondary was not good against Washington State. Now, Malik Moore, he's the guy that turns the ball over for that BYU defense, specifically in that secondary. He's going to have to do that again, because if BYU doesn't get off the field on third down, which they do not, and if BYU does not cause turnovers, they're not going to beat Virginia. So my guess is turnovers are going to determine this game.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the lack of turnovers can also decide it. If you play a clean game, if you're BYU, you at least give yourself a chance. But I mean, this whole idea of some weeks they're able to run the football, other weeks they're not able to run the football. Some weeks they need it through the air, other weeks it's on the ground. Like, they're just an inconsistent team. Are they capable? Yes. But are they inconsistent? Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And so I think, to me, this has to be a Tyler Algier show. I mean, the guy's got to have 150 at least,
You have to possess the football.
Yeah, and I think that I also think, all this whole play calling thing where they get super conservative and it puts them behind the sticks, that can't happen this week. Like you can't be 3rd and 8 the whole game and think you're going to have any kind of shot to win this ball game. I mean, you got to be 3rd and less than 5 the whole game, and then you'll have a chance to win this game. Which, how do you do that as a football team? You run for 5 yards on first down. So, again, like I said, at the beginning and the end is Tyler Algier and that offensive line doing their damn job. And if that happens, BYU will be in this thing.
Yeah, and I think when you look at what the identity of BYU's offense is, especially with Jaron as your starting quarterback, you're going to be more conservative. And I think you're going to try and control the line of scrimmage. Now, you should be able to do that against this Virginia D-line, frankly. But you can't have, 2nd and 11. 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
You have to win on first down. You have to get 4, 5, 6 yards of carry on first down. You have to have play action success on first down. And really, if you look at what this offense has been since Jaron got back into the starting lineup, you've been very plodding. You've been very methodical. You have not been able to move the football consistently in long drives. Right? And to me, it doesn't matter who you play. Your identity never really changes.
Yeah.
And for Jaron Hall, his identity is a guy that has to run the football to be fully effective. I'm curious. We saw a little bit more of mobile Jaron against Washington State. Do we get more of that? Because from what I understand, he's not nearly 100% physically. So it's going to be difficult for him to run in volume. But I think Jaron Hall has to use his legs if BYU is going to win this football game. And unfortunately, when the other team steps off the bus and they've put a 30 spot on the board, you can't make mistakes on either side of the football. So things like turnovers are not a possibility.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about turnovers. BYU had 1 game where they turned the ball over.
No, I'm worried about Jaron trying to do something too much. That's what I'm worried about. I don't worry about Algier fumbling or whatever like that. That to me, I agree with you, is a one-off thing. But I worry about, hey, we're down 2.5 scores here.
Yeah.
We got to push the ball down the field, and I'm Jaron Hall, and I don't have good touch on my deep ball. Turnover. That's what I think, is a possibility this week. So this game on paper does not look good for BYU. That said, I still think they can win it. It's just going to take really good execution.
What do we see out of the secondary? What do we see out of the defense? Because the other thing that's pretty apparent is BYU is not great in coverage, but they don't give up a whole ton of touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Utah State was really the game where, good Lord, they got what they wanted through the air.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look back to the Baylor game, Baylor won that game on the ground. Yeah, they got a touchdown pass, but I don't believe they got 2 in that game. I think Utah State's the only team that's gotten more than 1 touchdown pass on BYU. The problem for BYU is they are not focused on stopping the football from the 20s. From their 20 to your 20, BYU's happy to give you 7-8 yards a catch underneath the defense. And I hate that. It makes me crazy. But BYU, when their back has been against the wall, they've played decent red zone pass coverage. And I think you're going to have to do that again. The question for me is, how many big plays does Virginia get?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think BYU has to limit mistakes. Like, you can afford no mistakes on defense. You can't afford blown coverages. You cannot drop interceptions.
Which they do all the time.
I mean, and they only won that Utah State game because they got 2 picks in that game.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, I'm battling a hiccup. But my point is, BYU can't afford mistakes in this game, because as much as we talk about explosive offense at Virginia, that's who they are. I mean, their numbers do not lie. I think this is going to be a very close game. I mean, you're looking at a Cavaliers offense that puts up 405 yards through the air a game.
Yeah.
If you're playing,
I don't know that this is going to be a close game.
If you're playing the Boy Scouts, I don't care. If you put up 405 yards a game, you can throw the football pretty well. But I think the thing that you look at with BYU is that, again, you've played some decent offenses. Like, BYU controlled Arizona State. BYU got run all over at Baylor. The question is, what is it? How good can this defense be tomorrow?
Yeah,
that's the only question I have.
My biggest worry is just that this is a prolific throwing offense. Like, Arizona State, they're athletic. Yes, Jaden can throw it a little bit, but like, this Virginia offense, like, it just feels a little bit next level. And that really concerns me. I'm not saying that BYU sucks or they're not a good team or anything. They are a good team, but again, quality, really takes over. So when you can execute through the air, I mean, there's not much your secondary is going to be able to do when you're talking about a secondary that constantly is giving up 7 or 8 yards because they play this too deep, everything in front of us defense. So it just worries me. I could easily see this being a blowout. I could easily see this being a 35 to 17 win for Virginia. I could see that for sure. They're that capable.
The thing that scares you is Brennan Armstrong's game log, and this is what you lack at BYU.
Yeah,
396, 364, 487 against Louisville, and what is maybe one of their best wins. 268, 407. 554 against North Carolina, 405 and 339. And the other thing that really stands out to you is he runs the ball pretty well. He had 100 against Georgia Tech, 34, minus 23, 19, 33, minus 16, and 31. And the other thing that he's been doing more, watching some of their highlights, he's been running in the red zone more. And I think that's something that is really difficult to defend.
Yeah.
Is mobile quarterbacks in the red zone. And I think, one, he's a left-handed quarterback, which is something to pay attention to, because you don't see that very often, so it's more difficult to scheme for. His blind side is flipped.
Yep.
His strong side is flipped. Now he's going to be throwing to, essentially to the offense's left side a lot more. So it's something to watch for. I mean, does that play to BYU's strengths? I don't know. We'll see. This is going to be, I think Virginia's going to score probably 38 points in this game. And so the question is, how much do you believe in Jaren Hall? Because Virginia's going to sell out to stop Tyler Algier. And listen, TA's your best player. The guy's a stud. But when he's facing 7, 8, 9 guys and his first contact is at the line of scrimmage on a lot of plays, that's scary.
Not a recipe for success.
So, again, back to the top.
Yep.
Jaren Hall's going to have to win the football game for you. And I think the question is, without a D line, because I don't look at Virginia's defense as anything spectacular. Especially up front, you really should be able to control them. Now let's see who trots out there on the offensive line, but you really should be able to control the line of scrimmage when you're on offense.
Yeah.
You really should be able to control that, because I look at some of the numbers. I mean, you gave up 240 yards rushing or 270 yards rushing and 7.9 yards per rush to Georgia Tech. So you really should be able to run the football on Virginia. You would hope, right?
Yes.
You're going to have, if you need that to control the clock. And Jaron Hall's got to have a massive football game. And again, I mean, I just want to see them score 30 points.
Yeah.
If BYU can score 30 points, I also want a winning lottery ticket. But
yeah, I mean, I just think it's an unrealistic expectation
because that's not who this offense has been with Jaron Hall in the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
put Baylor in the game, we're having a different conversation.
Right, but Jaron's starting this game,
Yeah.
and I think we're at a point now where we have to stop talking about who's a better quarterback because it doesn't matter because this is Jaron Hall's football team. This is Jaron Hall's offense, and
I really hate that about sports. I really hate that. This whole dynamic of, hey, well, this is this guy's team, even though he's not nearly as good as the guy coming off the bench. Like, you know, and then we're gonna get all pissed off when BYU doesn't go to a New Year's Six.
I think with Jaron, I just don't know why he's not running. And I need to understand that. Is it because you're injured and we're just making a business decision that you're not going to run? Because you're not fooling anybody. No, there's not a defense. I haven't seen a defense in a month scheme to stop the quarterback from running on this team.
Yeah, they know he's not running.
And it hurts Tyler Algier. That's the hard conversation. Is that it hurts Tyler Algier. And I just don't know. I don't know what Jaron Hall's value is if he's not going to run, because frankly, I just don't think he is anything other than an average thrower of the football.
Yeah.
His short to intermediate throws are not fabulous. They're not accurate. The back shoulder throw is not very good. And when you're BYU and you're trailing, you're not going to win games. This team has to play from ahead.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the big play in their offense as much as you would like. You don't have the go-to big play. Like, Jaron Hall can throw fly balls, and Puka Nacua is going to run down there and catch him because he's going to out-athlete the corner, right? Because as a wide receiver, you already have the advantage. But when you have a guy like Puka Nacua that's very good at catching footballs, you can get away with throwing fly balls to him. But those won't win you games. What's going to win you a game is getting 10 on 3rd and 7. That's what's going to win you a game. And you got to do that throwing the football. I will say again, Isaac Rex is a guy that needs to be far more involved in this offense.
Yeah.
But the issue is Isaac Rex is not involved in the offense because Jaron Hall doesn't have an intermediate game. And his intermediate game used to be that he would run the ball. But now he doesn't run the ball, and Isaac Rex is suffering because of it. So I don't know what you do here because you're not – I'm telling you that I'd be shocked if Virginia does not come off that bus and score 30 points. I'd be surprised because Armstrong is a hell of a thrower of the football.
Yeah.
And it's been a weakness for BYU. So I'm somewhere in the order of 38-28. And if BYU scores 30 or more points, I think this is absolutely a nail-biting game. I just don't know why we would believe that BYU can score 30 points.
Agreed. 100% agree.
What have you seen? And again, drop your score prediction in the comments. And there's a lot of comments on this. Let's see. Eric C says 34-20 Virginia. Grocock made fake accounts to steal the election, says 42-2 Virginia. Greg Hawkins says I'm going with 45-24 Virginia. BYU fan CJ says doesn't matter if you out up 500 yards. If you put up 500 yards, Wake Forest held them to 17 points. Okay, so in one game, they don't score 30 points.
But every other game they do.
I will remind you that when you look at the Wake Forest game, you're absolutely right. Brennan Armstrong, he threw for 407 yards, and they only scored 17 points. So it's a defensive problem. Okay, cool, bro.
Yeah.
That means that BYU should be able to score 37 points, right? Come on. Now you're going to die on that hill. You believe, because we've seen Jaren Hall score 30 points. Never. Why would I believe? Why should you believe? Give me an idea of why all of a sudden we should buy into this theory that BYU should score 30 points when Jaren has never put up 30 points. What are we seeing that says he's going to do that against a prolific offense? Because when you only score 17 and the quarterback still throws for 400, you're still pretty good. You just had a bad game. And then, by the way, I would remind you, every other game they've scored 30 points.
Yeah.
Every other game. So, football is absolutely a game of identity. There's no doubt about that. Virginia scores 30 points every game but one. BYU scores 30 points every game that Jaren Hall doesn't start. Well, Jaren Hall's starting tomorrow, so should we all believe that they're going to score 30 points?
No.
I don't believe that we should. I think that what is the best predictor of future outcomes?
Past outcomes.
The past is absolutely the best predictor of the future. And so, CJ, with all due respect, I just don't see how you're going to hold on to one game where Brennan Armstrong still threw for 407 yards, and that's the reason that BYU is going to win the game? So then, should we pick Virginia to win the game? What was the worst game of the year for because Boise State? So now all of a sudden, BYU is going to fumble every time they get the ball, and they just turn it over all the time, right? No, that was one game where they had turnover issues in the rain against Boise State. They don't turn the ball over on the regular. They don't fumble the ball on the regular. They don't throw interceptions on the regular.
Jaren doesn't run on the regular.
Jaren doesn't score 30 points on the regular. You have to go with who your team is. Be honest. I say it all the time. Understand who you are and where you are. With this version of Jaren Hall, they're a 26, 27, 28-point team. Maximum. They're at 20. If we're being real honest, against the best teams they've seen, they've plotted and struggled, and they've scored 20 points. That's what scares you. Against Washington State, they scored 20 points. It's a little concerning for me because I think BYU has the potential to win this game. I just don't know that they can do it if they got to score 30 points. So the pendulum, if you will, the swinging pendulum is, does Virginia score 30 points in this game?
Yes.
How do they not? Because they score 30 points in every game.
Except one.
In Wake Forest's defense, they are undefeated this year. They could probably give BYU a run for their money, too. Let's not downplay Virginia in chat. Well, that's what I'm saying. Spencer Morgan says Jaren Hall's not getting you 38 points. I don't believe he is either. Jeremy Bolton says, geez, you guys make it sound like Jaren is the next Charlie Brewer out there.
Yeah, he's not that good.
So, Jeremy Bolton and BYU fan CJ, give me the scouting report on Jaren Hall, because here's mine. This is a guy that's injured. He's not going to run the football, and he doesn't throw the ball well underneath. So all we need to do is, one, stack the box, minimum 7 guys. Every one of our 11 guys on defense is within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Because even when he does throw a deep ball, he usually isn't. And you tell me, I'm just being honest, does Jaren Hall, is he the quarterback that lays the deep ball out in front of the receiver? No. He's the guy that throws the ball way up in the air. It starts raining because he threw it so high up in the air. And then Puka Nacua or Sampson or, Gunnar Romney or whoever had to go up and make a play to make the play
happen.
Okay, so he throws for 300 yards because he's got, in my opinion, great receivers making plays on deep balls. But you know that if you want to beat BYU, you don't stop Jaren Hall. You stop Tyler Algier, and you beat BYU.